This week on Pit Stop with Don and James, we talk about some surprise retirements. We talk about a unusual top 5 finish, and I debut a new painting. Welcome to Pit Stop with Don and James. I'm James.
And I'm Don.
Hey man, how's it going this weekend?
It's going pretty good. I'm between jobs. I ended my long-standing job on Friday. I'm starting a new job on Monday, so I've been partying hard. Had a family barbecue yesterday as sort of a celebration. So if my voice sounds a little shot, it's because I played a gig on Friday night and was singing for 3 hours, and then had not as much rest. And had the little family get together. So I was busy yesterday. Not to mention allergies getting me, and then I was screaming at my TV after as a result of the Spanish Grand Prix that we'll be talking about today. So, how about you, man? How are you doing?
Your life is definitely more interesting than mine at the moment. Just normal weekend, just cleaning up the house. And of course, I was, you should have been there for when I was watching the race. I was laying down for the majority of it. And then towards the end, like I sat up and was in utter disbelief of everything that happened. So,
Yeah,
uh, but yeah, man, congratulations on the new job. You're no longer a Fed. So get you
yeah,
back into the private sector.
right. Yeah, I don't know if we've talked really about our day jobs on this, but yeah, I've been a federal employee for about 20 years, and yeah, moving on to I'll still be working closely with the federal government, the new job I'm in, but trying to private sector job out for a little while at least.
Well, congratulations, man. On to
Thank you.
bigger and better things.
Yeah, we'll see. I had gotten pretty used to it and made my peace with the fact that it was not the most lucrative career choice being in the federal government, but it was still, a life of service. So I didn't mind it. I liked it, and I've had a good run. I worked with the Department of Veterans Affairs, so good mission serving veterans, and um, yeah, I've worked at various levels in the organization. But anyway, it's a we don't want to get political, I don't think, on this, but yeah, there's been some interesting political stuff that's happened, and so it just made it a little bit clear that I guess right now is a good time to try something else. So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, and I don't think we mentioned it either, but I'm a state employee, so I've definitely felt repercussions on my end because I
Yeah,
work with the Medicaid for the state. So definitely been some changes, and it's been kind of a big shakeup, but we're managing to get through it. So maybe, who knows, I'll follow suit and go back to the private sector with you.
yeah. Well, maybe now's a good time. It's a little bit of a shakeup period. So, well, speaking of shakeups, there was shakeups in the race today. You want to start talking about our Spanish Grand Prix?
Yeah, man, really where to start? I think the best place would be qualifying. Qualifying was sort of a mix up to what I was expecting. Or maybe hoping is a better way of stating that, because I really was hoping Yuki would finally pull it out and get it together, and qualifying dead last for the race.
Damn.
I I honestly just don't know. I went back and like tried to rewatch it, and I was listening to what the commentators had to say, and my observations is he just couldn't make it happen for whatever reason. I know going into the race, they changed the rear wing to hopefully, help stabilize it just a little bit better. It seemed like quite a few cars were struggling with the back end this weekend. In particular, would probably be Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. They had several things to say during the race, but man, how can you even, I don't know. I don't know that his seat is going to be safe that much longer if he keeps having this kind of result. I think they're probably going to put Hadjar in and give
Mm-hmm.
him a shot, because Verstappen's qualifying consistently at the top, and then Yuki has just not made it happen since coming into Red Bull.
Dead last in quali is just unacceptable for Red Bull. I don't know what to say unless there was something else going on with that car that gives Yuki an excuse. I don't know about that, man. Yeah, I would say, man, if I was Hadjar too, who's having a great season in the Racing Bull, would he even want to go try that Red Bull? I don't know that I would want to. Just let him have a good season as a rookie in the Racing Bull. He's sticking it to Lawson, who is consistently outperforming. I don't know, man. I don't know that I'd want to get in that Red Bull and be up against Max. And having said that, if you know P20 is the is the benchmark, I guess you can't really lose. But yeah, Yuki, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, because scored some great points today, so I'm going to go ahead and like jump maybe just a little bit and say where he finished, because he finished seventh.
He started ninth, right?
Did he start ninth? Hadjar started. He did start ninth, finished in seventh. Great result for him. Some great points. And as it stands right now in the standings, he's in ninth with those points today. So a great shakeup in the points running. But I think to your point, you're right. You know, he's doing pretty decently. Does he want to make the jump and jump into that second car and hope for the best? Because Lawson had a really bad run. Yuki's having a terrible run. Hadjar might be second guessing, you know, if he gets that opportunity, if he really wants to take it or not.
Yeah. I got to be honest. I don't know that I'd want it, just the way they're going through it. I mean, you like to think that everybody's ambitious in Formula One, so they'd, that's considered a promotion, but it does not look like a promotion. I mean, nobody's putting that second Red Bull anywhere near where Hadjar's been putting the Racing Bull. So I say, if Helmut or Horner comes knocking, maybe tell him to find somebody else. I mean, it's like it's almost like just let Yuki fin. I mean, it's now whoever goes in there, it's just going to be bad news for whoever ends up in that second seat. I hardly see where it's going to benefit anybody to get into that second seat. So I think they'll just ride it out with Yuki. They can't have too much more drama. But he won't get renewed for the next year, I wouldn't think, if he's doing this. So.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think something else that we can't really gloss over is Lance Stroll withdrew from the Spanish Grand Prix. He did not race. He's still having issues from, I would suggest, his previous crash where he messed up his wrist. And he said he was still having some wrist pain, so he's going to undergo some procedure. So, we wish him a speedy recovery in that. And I honestly don't know what Aston Martin's going to do, because Canada is coming up, and it's going to be the same weekend as the 24 Hours of Le Mans, I believe, if I am correct. But both Aston Martin reserve drivers are going to be in the 24 Hours of Le Mans. So they seem to be kind of in a rock and a hard place at the moment. If they decide to run a second car, I don't think they've announced who they're going to bring in, but it's going to be difficult for them.
Well, so did you, because I hadn't heard about his wrist. I saw injury, but that was all that I saw about Lance not participating this weekend. And it was shocking to me that they didn't throw a reserve driver in there. So do you know why they just opted to only run one car?
I didn't see why. I think we should say that Stroll qualified for the race. He did qualify 14th, if I'm correct in saying that. Mm-hmm. Just looking at my notes, and qualified 14th. So not a bad outing for Lance Stroll. But I did not see why they did not put in a second driver for the race, which is unfortunate for him.
Yeah, I was shocked that they didn't just throw somebody in there and see what happened. I mean, if that was really Lance's wrists, that's kind of crazy. Like, he broke his wrists in a cycling accident. Is that the one you're talking about from like a year or two ago?
I think so. That's the only injury that he's had to his wrist that I'm aware of. And if it's still giving him problems, or maybe, he was out cycling or something in training and just moved it wrong, have the old injury act up. It's unfortunate to happen.
Well, it would be interesting because if I'm remembering right, he had surgery on the injured wrist and then drove like immediately after having the surgery where you still had bandages on his wrists. So for it to now be taking him out of the race, that's that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a rough one. I don't know what they're gonna do.
Yeah. Hmm.
I guess it just depends on how quickly Stroll can heal up, and if not, I can't wait to see who they put into a second car if they run a second car. So
We've got a couple weeks, right? It's next week is a off week. Am I
next week is an off week.
So maybe he has time. It's his home Grand Prix in Canada, right? So
Yeah,
uh, hopefully he can make it a showing for that.
yeah. Canada will be the weekend of June 13th and 15th, so 2 weeks out.
Well, yeah, too bad for Lance. I mean, I've dogged him at times on this, but then reconsidered when I saw that he's the only one producing for Aston. So anyway, but we did have a little bit of a change in that this week. I don't know how far ahead to get here. So we started with qualifying. We talked about Yuki. Um, just I guess maybe to recap where things shook out in quali. Oscar P1, Norris P2, Verstappen P3, Russell 4, Hamilton 5, Antonelli 6, Leclerc 7th, Gasly 8th, Hadjar 9th, Alonso 10th. So Alonso qualifies in the points positions. And then I won't go through the back half, but I will say that Lawson was back there. Both Saubers were in the back half. Both Williams in the back half with Sainz all the way down in 18th. Not a good weekend for your boys at Williams. Colapinto 19th. So, Colapinto not exactly um, uh, probably ringing Flavio's bell at this moment. But anyway, yeah, that's kind of the rough shakeout of the top 10 and some of the key people in the back half of the grid.
Yeah, it was definitely a weekend to forget for Williams. Just a rough weekend for both of them, which is unusual because Albon has kind of been the shining star for the team so far for the season,
Mhm.
right? Because I mean, he is sitting eighth in the points, where Sainz is down in 13th in the point standings, and quite a bit of a gap between them. So Albon has been running great, and then for whatever reason, just this circuit, they just didn't have it.
Yeah.
It was so strange.
Yeah, they were struggling for some odd reason on this circuit. I will say, uh, high degradation circuit, right? The plan was for two stops for most people, and we had several that ended up on doing three stop due to cautions and the Red Bull Max ended up on a four stop, if I'm not mistaken. Which we'll get to because there was a lot of exciting stuff to talk about with Red Bull and the way that the race ended for them. But yeah, not a great weekend for Williams. Unfortunately, it was a bummer.
Yeah, qualifying really started it off, right? And then for the race, Albon lost his wing twice and
Yeah,
ultimately ended up retiring the car. It was, man,
right.
he's going to be kicking himself. He's going to be super upset. Um, man, just
Yeah,
just
two two
couldn't keep it
front
clean.
wings, two
Two
front
front
wings, and
wings.
yeah, he went out there and did another lap just to take care of a penalty that he got for. Was it for the contact, or did he gain an advantage off the track? I can't remember.
I believe it was for leaving the track and gaining an advantage.
So he
So
so he they tell him he's got a 10-second penalty after they had told him to box to retire the car. He came through the pit lane and then they had him serve the penalty, go back, do a lap, and then retire the car. So yeah, not great for that for poor Alex this time.
yeah, it was a tough one because it happened so early into the race that he ended up pitting on lap six. I should note that everybody started on the soft tires with the exception of Sonoda, who started on the medium. But even Sonoda starting on the medium, he pit early on lap eight.
Yeah, I could make no sense of that. He had to start from the pit lane, if I'm not mistaken, right?
For
Um,
swapping the back wing, yeah.
yeah, and then he goes out there on a medium, which you would infer that that means they're going to run him longer than everybody else, right? The soft seemed to last a lot longer than what they thought for most people out there. Pit window was lap 10 to lap 19, they thought, for the soft. And most people were out there at least 20 on the soft. But I think it was on lap 9 or 10 that Yuki came in and switched from a medium to a soft. So I don't know what was going on there. I don't know what kind of thing they were trying to pull there.
Yeah, there didn't really, for the pit stops, there didn't really seem to be like, oh, a mad rush on a particular lap, right? Because even Behrman came in on lap 8 just to try and get him out of the dirty air. But then everybody started pitting just about every single lap after that, lap 9, 10, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, all the way up until it looks like lap 22. So yeah, it was a really odd strategy for tires this weekend. Everybody seemed to be playing completely different games. Nobody ended up aligned like, oh man, like we know like lap 15 is going to be the best one. So everybody's just going to pit on lap 15. So a lot of people tried a lot of different things this weekend, and it looks like a majority of people had 3 stops, if I'm counting it right. Uh, Maybe a handful were just on 2. I think Bortoletto was only on a 2-stopper.
Yeah, I think the safety car, there was a safety car near the end of the race, and that threw a free pit stop to a lot of people. So what was going to be a 2-stop strategy went to 3. Um, so yeah, that I think that kind of um, just indicated that the tires were a little bit of there was a little bit of degradation on the tires, and it's I think you said it's a fast track at those speeds. Chews up the tires a little bit, so yeah. Well, so I guess chronologically here, I don't know if you felt like this, but they when the 5 lights went up, they went lights out really quick after that 5th light. I mean, it
Yeah, they
just
did not
blinked,
make them wait, did they?
and I mean, it was one of the quickest light out switches that I've seen. The lights go out. It's a good launch by Oscar, and a good launch by Verstappen. Not a great launch for Lando. So uh, uh, Verstappen jumps Lando from P3 to P2. Um, there was a pretty good launch for Hamilton, who I think went up to P4 as well. And he had started in P5. So he got past Hamilton, I think. Or Hamilton got past Russell, I think. So um, anyway, that was kind of interesting. Then very quickly after that, there was a fight for P10 between Alonso and Hulkenberg, um, which was interesting. Good launch by Hulkenberg, and he had kind of benefited from some scraps, contact with Albon, and he jumps up 4 places. Albon got front wing damage, like we talked about, and had to pit at lap 8. So that pretty much did in Albon's race immediately. But Hulkenberg with a big jump up 4 places at the start. Um, Bad start for Mercedes. George dropped 2 places and Kimi dropped 1. So really not great for Mercedes there. Um, yeah, so that was kind of the recap that I had from the race. Did I miss anything key at the beginning of the race?
Um, no, for the beginning of the race, I think you pretty much covered it. I think you're right. It was a very quick, switch to like, okay, lights are out and here we go. So, I think it did catch a few people out because you saw some people that were just immediately ready for it and some people that were a little surprised by it and got caught out by it. And
Yeah,
it did create a little bit of chaos
right.
into turns 1 and 2. Um, but I think in terms of passing people, Alonso outside of turn 3 seemed to really be his jam this weekend. just no fear, just cruising around people on the outside of turn three, being able to find the grip. Even later into the race, when all the marbles are there, he was still able to make some good passes, and ended up, where did he finish? He finished 10th, but because Verstappen ended up getting a penalty, which we'll come to, moved him up. So I'm pretty stoked about that one.
Yeah, P9 for Alonso in
P9
the end, and his first points of the
finally getting
season.
points. Yes, my bold
Yes.
prediction. He finally got points at his home Grand Prix, I have to say.
Yeah.
So this one probably really means a lot that he finally was able to make something happen this race.
Yeah, it was good, and it was a bit of a roller coaster for Alonso because he was up there in the points for a while. He got bumped back through I couldn't tell if it was just on pits and stuff like that, but eventually the safety car gave him another shot, and he put it in the points on merit, and then even got a little bit more when the penalties were doled out.
Yeah, he was able to make some great moves around Bortoleto and Lawson towards the end of the race after the restart. Very fortunate because I saw that he was down in 12th. I'm like, man, he is so close to finally getting these points, and I was really holding my breath for him. So
Yeah,
kudos to Alonso.
yeah,
Um,
very good.
Way to go.
Now, I was just mentioning a battle between him and Hulkenberg down there around 10th. Hulkenberg pulls out a sweet result for Sauber today. Um, he put the car P6 on the drive, and with the penalty ended up P5. I mean, P5 for Sauber is no joke. That was a sweet result for Hulkenberg. So he was driving well all day, I thought.
Yeah, pushed him all the way up to 11th in the standings. He's got 16 points now, so he's just outside the top 10, only four off of Ocon. And so those Haas's have been kind of all over the place. So maybe there's more to play for to get into the top 10 for overall points. But yeah, what a mega drive. I got to say, Bortoleto was a bit of a letdown, um, because he started significantly ahead of Hulkenberg. As you said, Hulkenberg started all the way in 16th, and Bortoleto started in 12th. So he didn't move all race because that's where he ended up finishing, was 12th. Whereas Hulkenberg was able just to make the strategy and the yellow work for him and made it all super far ahead. Um, but I was really hoping more for Bortoleto just being right there outside the top 10 to start.
Yeah, and there was a point in the race, and it was near the middle of the race, maybe getting closer towards the end of the race, if I'm not mistaken, that both Saubers were running in the points. And I can't remember when it was that Bortoleto dropped back. But yeah, they were. I was thinking, oh boy, they might score a double points finish. That'd be huge for them. But yeah, he wasn't able to stay up there with the rest of the point scores. But I mean, P5, hanging on to that P5, I'm sure Sauber is celebrating that today, because that was huge for them. Nice drive by Hulkenberg. Like to see him do well.
Yeah, and I think we also have to mention that Ollie Behrman received a 10-second penalty for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. So a bit of a bummer for Ollie Behrman. He had some pretty good scraps being out there on the track, and to see it all just kind of come to naught is a little on the heartbreaking side for him.
Yeah, he ended up in P17, which is the last of all the drivers that finished, and Ocon was only ahead of him in 16th. So not a good day for Haas. Here I am thinking they're on an upward trajectory, and no sooner do I make a bold prediction about them. Not this week. I didn't make one, but the week before, that they'd do better than they did the previous year. They did worse, and now they're they're the back markers for this week's race. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see what's going on. I think you said the phrase, they're all over the place. That is kind of what's been going on with them. I mean, every now and then they have this flash of brilliance. Looks like they're going the right direction, and then they finish the last two positions this race. So yeah, not good for Haas.
Yeah, it was a rough one for him. So, uh, I would like to point out the bold prediction. Uh, I did say Alonso was finally going to get points, so I'm really happy about that. Um, and then I said Hamilton was going to come ahead of Leclerc, which it was true for the first few laps of the race
Yeah,
until they got the team orders to switch, putting
right.
Leclerc ahead of Hamilton, which for Hamilton, that's got to be pretty heartbreaking, right? You're a 7-time world champion and you're with a teammate who's Leclerc. And granted, he's no slouch. Leclerc is very talented, but he's not Hamilton. So
Yeah,
there might have been some bruising to the ego for Hamilton this race,
yeah,
because once Leclerc got the go ahead to go past, he took off. Hamilton
yeah.
just couldn't put the power down at this circuit.
I mean, it seems like it was probably the right call, right end result. Leclerc actually ends up on the podium in P3, and he did so with some. I mean, he made a good move on Max Verstappen late in the race, or depending who you ask, a good move. Max seemed to think it was dirty, but I don't know who's ever gone past Max, and Max was like, "That was nice." He always thinks it's dirty, but yeah, I mean, he managed a good result. By the way, Hamilton finished in P6, which he legit got overtook by Hulkenberg in the Sauber. So, I mean, I don't know what's going on there. You know, I've been having my doubts about Hamilton, and I was starting to think maybe I was judging too harshly because he jumped out, stole P4. He was running in P4 when they gave him team orders, uh, and then he finished the race in P6 again behind Hulkenberg, which I think is pretty insane to even think. But yeah, so I don't know. We'll see. I'll keep giving Hamilton some time. There was definitely news stories in the news cycle between last race and this race about friction between Hamilton and the engineers. I don't know if you read any of that stuff. I didn't read it very thoroughly. I just saw mostly headlines. Fred Vasseur tried to downplay it, like it was just, it's just normal driver engineer headbutting, which happens in this sport. But yeah, we'll see. I hope Hamilton was disappointed as well. I mean, he definitely came on the radio wondering why they pit him when they did. I don't know if you heard that. The broadcast showed his radio message. Why are you pitting me so early? They were trying to cover a pit stop, cover off an undercut from. Now I'm blanking on who it might have been. Maybe the Racing Bulls or something. Anyway,
I think at that time it was for the McLaren, the Mercedes.
the
I
Mercedes.
think
Yeah, I
that's
think
who
you're
they
right.
were worried about at that time.
Yeah, that sounds right. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, Hamilton, come on, man, we got to do better than P6.
Yeah, what a tough one for him. But I mean, you're right. Overall, for a weekend for Ferrari, finishing on a podium, P3 with Leclerc is pretty good, and Hamilton still scored some great points coming in P6.
Yeah,
So I mean, it's getting Leclerc closer to Russell, who Leclerc is running towards, right? In the standings. Um, but Hamilton's still right there, right? He's still just behind Leclerc, and they're kind of in no man's land, right? Because Kimi Antonelli's 30 points off of him, and but then Russell is still 15 points ahead. So it's it's they need every little point that they can get, and coming ahead of Russell was the right way to do it. Sometimes team orders hurt, but it's
yeah,
got to be done.
yeah. I agree. I think it must have been the right call. I mean, Leclerc pulled it out and managed a great result. Can't argue with the fact that he finished on the podium. I think so. Yeah, I think it's interesting. Okay, just to kind of recap the constructor standings. McLaren is now 197 points clear of
Wow.
Ferrari. No one's catching McLaren this year, I don't think. I mean, That's a lot of ground to make up. It's 362 for P1. Ferrari is in P2, 165. Mercedes 159. So 6 points between Ferrari and Mercedes for P2. And then Red Bull is down a little bit, 15 points behind Mercedes in P4. So the battle for P2 is real. I think I sent a text to our little F1 chat yesterday. Before this race, it was 5 points that separated P2 from P4. So 3 teams in there in the mix. And then, of course, after today, that shook up just a little. But Ferrari and Mercedes are basically neck and neck at 6 points difference. And now Red Bull is dropped down because of Max getting a penalty and Yuki being non-existent in the Spanish Grand Prix, So, Red Bull's going to have to pull out something. I mean, they're just heavily relying on Max finishing on that podium and, stealing wins to be competitive for P2. But yeah, the eyes all should be on the constructor side for P2, because I think McLaren is so far out, it would be very hard for anyone to catch them, save some kind of catastrophic thing happen to them. But P2 is a big mix between Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull. So very interesting stuff going on there.
Yeah. The majority of the points are from Max Verstappen, right? Because looking at Yuki Tsunoda, because he started in Japan, he has 7 points going towards the Red Bull team. Not great. And then, of course, Lawson had a DNF in Australia and then no points in China. So it's all Max Verstappen. He's the one holding it down, keeping them in the fight. But keeping him in the fight he is, because they're still in fourth ahead of the Williams.
And they're 90 points clear of Williams, so it's not that close. I mean, that could be made up over several races if Williams could make one of my bold predictions come true and get their both cars in the points and maybe a guy on the podium. It's been kind of crazy. And yeah, Max is carrying the team. We'll see what happens. I don't know how long they'll keep on like this before they try to make some kind of a move. Like I said, I think they'll just ride with Yuki, but you never know. They could be so desperate to not get shown up by Toto and Mercedes that they go make a drastic move to try to get somebody in there that they can rely on. I just don't know who it would be. Like you look through. I mean, like I said a couple times, they could try to bring back Danny Rick, which would be silly. I don't think he's going to put any more points on the board for them either. They could, they could try to promote Isaac Hadjar. That might be the only real option that they've got. Who do they have as a reserve driver? Do they have somebody in the reserve seat that they could throw in there?
There's a gentleman by the name Iwasa.
Oh, yeah. I think he's done an FP1 or something.
A Japanese motorsport driver. He was racing in Super Formula, and I think he even did a test on one of the free practices.
Yeah. Yes.
So it would probably be him.
Yeah.
But I mean, they also have the F2 drivers, which, if they had the super license points, could potentially have a running.
Yeah.
So. I still think
Sebastian Vettel.
Yeah, bring him back.
Yeah.
Vettel would be a good one. Although I don't know that he really has it in him. And much like Danny Rick, once you've been setting out for a while, you don't really have the same reaction time. You don't have the same drive or anything like that. So my vote would still be for Hadjar. I love Hadjar. He's really crushing it this year.
Yeah. Yeah, he's clearly showing that he's the best of the 6 rookies. It was kind of neck and neck with him and Antonelli, but Antonelli's dropped off the past couple races and hasn't really done as much. Today, Antonelli didn't finish because his car seemed to have a failure. I didn't know that they ever said what it was, but it looked like his engine, something. There was smoke, a puff of smoke. He lost drive and went straight off into the gravel. Luckily, no crash or anything, just car failed and he stopped in the gravel. So they got him out of there, and that was the safety car that led to the big shakeup. So we've been talking a while. Should we head on to that now?
Yeah,
Should we get into
definitely.
the end of the
Thanks
race?
for the segue.
Yeah.
uh, yeah. So just to touch on, you said Antonelli had fallen off, and you're right because this is his second DNF in 3 races. Granted, this one was not his fault, but still not a great result. But even at Monaco, which again is one of those outlier races, finished all the way down in 18th, right? So not a good result for him. But he's had 4 sixth place finishes. So I would hope coming into Canada that we would see him return to being back within the top 10, most likely a 6th place position. So we'll see how that goes. But you're right, he did suffer a power failure this weekend, um, causing everybody to join up behind the safety car. I love a safety car. I like safety cars way more um, than like the full course yellows, virtual safety cars, right? Because I like when everybody gets bunched up. It resets the race and anything can happen. And it makes for great spectating, um, which ultimately led to Leclerc coming in third. But the one thing that really stuck out to me is all the leaders pit, right? McLaren did a double stack, sort of a dicey double stack, and then Norris really had to slow down and even still arrive there just a little bit early, um, as Piastri was pulling out. I may have got there as the car was being lowered back onto the ground, so a really dicey double stack for him.
Yeah.
But they still pulled it off, so kudos to McLaren. They absolutely crushed it. But Verstappen went on to the hard tires, and when he was asking about it, it said it was the only tires that they had left.
Yeah.
Um, at that point, shouldn't he have just stayed out and kept the tires he had and just kind of, hope for the best? Because he would have started from first.
Yeah.
So even if he had gotten passed by Piastri and Norris, which, Verstappen is really good at defending, he would have put up a really good fight.
Mm-hmm.
He still would have come back in third. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that I 100% agree with that. And that was exactly what I was thinking. And I think they pit him after the other guys went into the pit lane. They could have reacted to the McLarens coming in and just said, "Okay, stay out," because he would have been in first. And
Yes.
they didn't know how long the safety car was going to go. So under the safety car, they're not really chewing up tires. And then, he has a bit of a knack for a safety car restart from the lead as well, so I would say that would have been the better gamble and would have completely changed how things turned out. He was on, what tire was he on? Was he on a soft when they put him onto the hard? It was his 4th pit stop. So, yeah, he went onto the hards and I immediately was like, what are they doing? Why are they putting him onto hard tires? And then like 5 seconds after I said that, they showed the radio and he goes, "What are these tires? Hards? Why are we on these? We didn't have any other tires." And it's like, okay, that just didn't seem like that seemed like it almost doomed him, right? Because, okay, so the safety car happened at lap 55 out of 66. And then they kept going with the safety car until, what was it, lap 60? 59?
Believe so.
Now I can't remember when it restarted, but
I
do know that
lap 60, they only raced like a full 6 laps.
I mean, 6 laps, I think Max has it to keep those tires. He could have actually won the race. He probably would have got passed by Lando and or Oscar, both of them. I don't know, maybe one or two of them. But yeah, even then, P3, that's a good result. A lot better than the P10 where he ended up. But yeah, so I did want to make a comment about a funny radio message from Hamilton. They were doing the safety car. They get Kimi's Mercedes off the track. Then there's a protocol to let the lapped cars unlap themselves, which they all do. But they don't have to let them go all the way around the circuit before they pull the safety car in. they let them get a little bit of a gap so that maybe the people in the front aren't going to end up just relapping them really quick. And Lewis comes on the radio and he says, "They sure do love wasting laps." And you could tell he was eager to get back out there and race. But anyway, I thought that was a good line from him. I'll remember that for a long time.
Yeah, I just went back and double checked. So they went through lap 60. So lap 61 was the first green lap that they had. So 61 all the way to 66 was green. And that restart, a little dicey for Verstappen, right? Because he seriously overcooked it. I don't know how he saved that car coming out of the last corner, because he was pretty much fully sideways, right? Managed to save it, but that allowed Leclerc to get by. And going down the front straight, it's hard to say who hit who, because Leclerc was slightly coming over, but Max also wasn't going to yield. He was just running a straight line instead of doing the same and kind of merging out. So I chalk it up to a racing incident. There's plenty of track. They don't need to be that close to each other. But Leclerc did end up getting by on the restart. And I think it has to do with those hard tires, right? Because he just could not get the power down, just didn't have the grip. Those tires take longer to heat up, and there just wasn't enough heat to go for it. And I think the idea was, like, even though it was his last set and they were so close to the end, at least he could just push as hard as he want and not have to worry about the tire degradation, right? Because those tires can handle the heat a lot better. But it just wasn't the right call for him.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a bad tire. I mean, and you could just see it on the restart. Didn't have the grip. The others got the jump on him. Then, like you said, in the last turn, he snapped super hard. I mean, he is lucky that he didn't bin the whole thing right there. Or not, maybe not luck. Maybe it was Verstappen's skill, but it was one of the bigger snaps I've seen where it didn't result in a crash. And so then, yeah, he's going down. And then I saw they're going down the straight, and I saw in the post race, Charles kind of explained the thinking as they're going flat out down the straight, that on the right side. So if Charles yields to Max, he ends up kind of where there's marbles, right? So he loses a little bit of traction out there, and he felt that Max was trying to force him out in that area. But Leclerc, the thing was, he got the edge. He was half a car length ahead of Max. I don't know if there's protocol. There is in the turns, right? If your mirrors are ahead of the other car, you have the right to the corner. But on the straight, I don't know what the protocol is, to be honest. And Max didn't want to yield either, and so they had a little bit of contact, and the FIA judged it just what you said, a racing incident, no further penalty. But Max definitely was furious. He thought he was ran into, by Charles. And I'm sitting there going, well, but Charles was ahead of you. He was half a car length ahead when the contact happened. Okay, so Charles pulls away and starts gaining ground at P3. And then George Russell, because of this battle, he comes and tries to avail himself. And then there's contact through turn one between George and Max. So what did you think about that?
Yeah, so because Verstappen had that little misstep, right? Obviously, there's going to have to be a slight slowing down, albeit very briefly, which allowed, by the time they get to the end of the front straight down into turn one, Russell is already there. He's already alongside Verstappen, and Verstappen has to take the escape road. And more contact, right? Russell just kind of seemed to overcook it just a little bit, had a slight little bit of oversteer, quickly corrected, but did hit Verstappen. Verstappen takes the escape road, and just not happy overall. Verstappen gets the team message to let Russell back by, which he does, and the pinnacle of the race, Verstappen appears to run straight into Russell. I didn't see any tire smoke indicating that he would have locked up the front brakes. It The apex of the corner was coming up very quickly on his left hand side, and he made no effort to get to it. Uh, what
Right.
very unsportsmanlike conduct. But Verstappen is a hothead, so
I think that was about the clearest demonstration of the hothead uh, Verstappen. I think he was furious. I mean, he got bumped by George, and then got penalized. He, of course, thought George was at fault for the first incident through turn one, and it looked like he just came back for revenge in that turn, and because he was told to give the place back, and I think they were assuming he was giving the place back to George at the turn, and then he just comes right. I mean, he's really lucky that they didn't both go off. I don't know how. I don't know how he feathered it just to nudge him like that, to be honest. But it was real bad. And Julian Palmer on the broadcast was appalled. Yeah, I mean, he couldn't believe it, and he thought it was a clear. It was clear that Verstappen was trying to just run into him, and for that he ends up with a 10-second penalty. Actually, did they adjudicate it for the? Yeah, they adjudicate for the contact. Yeah, I was thinking gaining an advantage off the track, but he gave the place back, so they didn't give him the 10 seconds for that. So that 10-second drops him back. I know. Well, yeah, you've never seen anybody more begrudgingly give the place back. I mean, he nails him once and then lets him go by later on. And George was like, "What was that?" He just ran right into me. So yeah, that was Bush League, man. That was not. I did not care for that, and I'm a I'm a somewhat of a fan of Max Verstappen. I don't like that he has that attitude of like just constant complaining about what other drivers are doing. And then I just thought that was, I don't think I've ever seen anybody really do that. I do remember the brake check. That was dirty. That was dirty. But yeah, I think, yeah, I don't know. I'm actually surprised they only gave him 10 seconds for that, which dropped him down to 10th place. So
yeah.
really,
I was listening to the international feed, and
okay.
they had Nico on there, and he thought it was going to be a black flag, a full disqualification uh, for such a blatant disregard for sportsmanlike conduct, right? And you cause a collision in it. It's not the way to go, man. If it's not your race, it's not your race. You're just gonna have to move on to the next one. But I could see how, it was a sort of a culmination of things, right? You had the yellow flag under the safety car. You're pitting for tires, which you weren't even planning on using in the race, right? And then out of nowhere, uh, you get passed right on the start, and then you get told to let a car by. It's a lot of things that led up to that moment.
Yeah, it was the complete unraveling of his race. Within the last five laps. Um, and he had driven a good race, right? P3 would have been decent for him, and he had stolen P2 for a while. It wasn't a bad race for him until it came down to that. I mean, even the fact that they pit three times and he was still in P3, it was like, well, um, maybe he did have a good race, but it all came apart, and I blame it on the pit during the safety car to put on the hards, because I think had he been out there and you just trusted that this guy and his wily craftiness could have held on to P1, or at very least he gets passed by both McLarens on newer tires, that's still a good result. Putting him on hards didn't even, I mean, there was basically no chance he was going to be able to overtake the McLarens then, so I just felt like that was a bad call. His race came undone, but he shouldn't have done that. I just imagine that like he immediately got out of the car. He didn't do any kind of like parade lap or anything. He just got out of the car and walked back back to the paddock. And I don't know if you remember the scene from one of the newer Star Wars movies where Kylo Ren is furious, and he just lightsabers a control room to death, you know. And I just imagine like that's what's going to happen here. He's gonna go back and smash everything in the paddock, but maybe he didn't. I don't know.
Yeah, it was a rare miss on strategy for Red Bull. They're usually so on top of it,
Yeah,
and it just didn't come together. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, what a crazy last 5 6 laps to a race that was seeming to just sort of fall into place by the time the yellow came out. You know, everybody was kind of set as where they were. Um, and but
yeah,
it did allow, I should say, even though he did get a 10-second penalty, Verstappen still finished 10th, so he still got a point out of
yeah,
the race. So
yeah. He finished in the
uh
points,
but
and
Alonso P9. Woo!
I know bump Alonso up to P9. That was sweet. I really love the Hulkenberg result. Maybe my favorite result of the race today. I just thought that was nice for them and for him in particular. And I loved that it came. I mean, he got bumped up a position with Max getting the penalty, but I love that he overtook Lewis for that extra position. That was awesome down the end of the race. Didn't love that Lewis was the victim of that, because I've been kind of waiting for Lewis to really show what he can do and, you know, get back up to the top of the pack. So a little bummed that Lewis ended up in where was he, P6. So that was a bit of a bummer for Lewis, especially because he was you know, a couple places higher than that at some point in the race. But another great result for Hadjar, finished P7. Lawson was P11, just outside the points. So come on, Lawson, you got to do this, man. You got to get in those points. He's getting shown up by Hadjar for sure.
He only has 1 points finish this season, and it was Monaco. For 4 points, he finished in eighth.
I will say
Not great for him.
I will say too that he was struggling down the end. He was in some scraps with other cars. Lawson was, and I think he had contact a couple of times at the end of the race. So it was like desperate racing, maybe. I don't know what else to call it. But yeah, Lawson's got to shape up and get some results. Having said that, he finished ahead of Yuki. He was 2 spots ahead of Yuki. Yuki made it from the back of the grid in P19 up to P13. But I mean, come on, that's just not going to cut it for Red Bull. They need points, and probably more than what P9 or P10 can offer. They need, you know, they need him up there, further up to get more points out of the second Red Bull, especially if they're going to compete in that for that P4 or even P3 at this point in the constructors.
Yeah, I will say my bold prediction that Piastri was going to come back and win did come true, so I'm pretty stoked about that one. I got that one right.
You,
Finally, make a correct one.
your
So I'm
average
feeling
is
pretty
so much
good.
better than mine. On
In all fairness, I don't think my predictions are as bold as yours are.
Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah, that's my knack, is going for something outlandish, just to give me something to watch for. So you know my strategy on the bold predictions. I got to look for something that is like remotely plausible that it could even occur. You know.
because I think you said both Williams or there was going to be a Williams on the podium.
On the podium, yeah, and they weren't even close, man.
No, nowhere close.
Yeah, well, I felt like they, you know, I what I'll do is I'll look and I'll go, okay, look, they finished P5 or whatever. You know, Albon has had a couple P5s. I'm like, that's only 2 spots up. He's got to jump to make it up there. I'm like, he's kind of seems like he's on a trajectory that way. And then yeah, I stick my neck out, and I stuck my neck out on Alonso scoring points a couple times. I think some of my bold predictions, they're just like 2 weeks too early. You know, that's one of my problems. So anyway, or 2 races too early, I should say.
Yeah, I know we don't usually talk about it, but we're in a fantasy league together, and your son is just running away with it this year.
Yeah. It is. Yeah, we have our fantasy league. I am in dead last. I have won our fantasy league before, so I'm not completely inept.
I
but
think you won it 2 years straight, if I remember correctly.
yeah, that sounds about right. But yeah, my son Kyle, he is in the lead, and he's doing almost nothing to manage his team. He will
Oh,
he'll
don't tell me that. That hurts so much more.
well he'll always check in after the race, and he'll be like, "Oh man, I got to make this change and that," and then he doesn't do anything, and then he just keeps getting more more points. And I have changed my team up pretty significantly a couple times already, and I need to go back in again because I think I haven't paid enough attention to it, and I'm in dead last, and by a long shot. Like, I'm not close. I'm probably going to finish in dead last, but I had Fernando for many weeks as like my 2 times driver, and
That's
I
what's hurting
just
you.
he was doubling my losses for a few weeks in a row, and I just never I never switched it. So yeah, I don't know. I'm almost to the point. I'm looking at it like Aston Martin is looking at FY25 or FY. That's a fiscal year. That's my work term. The
Yep.
season
I totally
2025.
understood what you said because we use the same thing.
Oh boy, the 2025 car, the Aston is not focusing on. I'm just like, okay, this is my same strategy. I'll look forward to next year.
Yeah. My dad was the same way. He still had Jack Doohan up until 2 races ago when I was like, hey, do
Oh.
you know you're still racing Jack Doohan?
Yeah, he's not going to bring in too many points from the paddock.
Yeah. What a good one. But overall, man, a great race, great weekend. I don't think we have to make any bold predictions today. We can make them next week going into Canada. Canada's a race I always look forward to. It's one of my favorites, Canada being our neighbors and everything. But I've always loved the Canadian Grand Prix. It's always produced some interesting races. Uh, Even last year, uh, I think it was Alex Albon who had the pass of the race where he split 2 cars going into the final chicane. Uh, he couldn't replicate that if he wanted to. It was such a great pass. Um, so I'm really looking forward to it, and next week we'll make some bold predictions. One thing I did forget to mention: uh, Max Verstappen still got driver of the day today, despite despite his antics. That seems kind of like a slap in the face, and I was a little surprised by it.
Man, if I was going to vote, I'd give Hulkenberg driver of the day. I mean, yeah, I couldn't, I don't think I could vote any other way. I mean, the only other one maybe Hadjar. A P7 for Hadjar is a really good result. I mean, he's obviously, it's almost becoming like expected of him, but Hulkenberg at a P5, man, that's awesome. I would have voted for Hulkenberg. I rarely vote. I think I've maybe voted once or twice for driver of the day. Do you ever vote for those? Do you ever go on the?
Only if I'm watching it and I see something absolutely wild where I'm like, okay, like I'll throw my vote in for him. Not that my one vote's really going to make a difference in a world of voters, but
Yeah.
you know, every little bit helps, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, I haven't done it. And today I watched the race on delay because I was partying so hard this weekend. I didn't get up in time to watch to watch from the start. But yeah, so my driver of the day vote, I wouldn't have been able to make it. But maybe I should get in the habit so that we could talk about who our drivers of the day are. I Speaking of traditions that we haven't made stick, we talked about eating local cuisine from wherever the race is, and I failed. I didn't get any paella for the Spanish Grand Prix, and I haven't been doing a good job probably since Japan when I had sushi and ramen. I feel like there was one other one that I did. I think I got some like Indian food before, like Bahrain or something, because I looked up what Bahraini food was like, and it was like biryani or something like that. And so I went for that, but we haven't been talking about it. So maybe we need to get back on that horse. I thought that was kind of a fun one.
Yeah, we did Italian breakfast. I think was the last one I did for the Emilia Romana, which is super easy. It's just a lot of meats and cheeses and pastry, so it wasn't too hard to make that one happen.
Yeah, you're right. I actually did eat chicken Alfredo, which is I don't know that it could have passed. It would have passed for Italian food the way like Olive Garden passes for Italian food. It's not really. It wasn't legit. Um, but yeah, yeah. Maybe I need to revisit this. Maybe I need to go get my paella since we have two weeks off. And then for the Canadian Grand Prix, I don't know what do we get? Maple syrup, some. What's the dish? Poutine that they do?
Poutine,
Yeah.
fries with cheese curds.
Maybe we need to go. Maybe we need to do some of that or something like that.
You think Canada's kicking themselves like that's their one dish they're known for is fries with cheese,
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
other than maple syrup, of course.
It's pretty popular, I guess. Yeah. Somebody was making a crack about. I was listening to a podcast. I listened to. Maybe we don't need to plug other podcasts, but it's not in the same vein. Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. My favorite podcast, and he was talking to Ryan Reynolds, who of course is Canadian, and his Ryan Reynolds' dad was for a while he was a Canadian mounted officer in the police. His dad, Ryan Reynolds' dad, has passed away since. But anyway, they were making some cracks because one time uh, Conan was he did a remote shoot up in Canada and was a royal did like put on the Royal Canadian Police mounted police uniform, and he was throwing snowballs at people that were coming across the border, and they were making a crack about the officers aren't armed with guns, they have pancakes in their pockets and maple syrup or something like that. So yeah, that will give me an idea. Let's do pancakes next time with maple syrup, and maybe I'll figure out how to get a hold of some poutine.
There you go. Might have to make it. But yeah, man, that sounds good. You'll have to let us know if it comes to fruition.
Yeah. I can do the pancakes. I don't know how to do poutine. I'm gonna have to figure that out or find out if there's a place around here that you can go to. You think somebody would do it? I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. Before we sign off, I would be remiss if I didn't point out my new painting that
Oh,
I have
hey,
up over
yeah,
here.
look at that.
If you can see it.
That's very cool.
Yeah, of course it's Nigel Mansell, Anna Williams. So, just ticking all the boxes for me.
So you took down the London picture. Now, is this painting by somebody you know?
Yeah, so this painting was done by none other than my mom.
Very
My
nice.
mom still paints me things in well into my 30s. So,
Well, she did a great job. That's cool.
yeah, she did a killer job. It almost looks, if you're far enough away, it actually does look like a photograph. Like it's really good, but
Yeah.
it's once you get up close, it's all textured and everything. It's did a really good job. I'm
So
really
did she
happy
do
with it.
this? Did she do this based off of a picture that you have of Mansell's car, or for something she saw online, or what?
This is something she saw online, I think. Sort of a famous picture of uh, of well, what you're seeing right now. You know,
Yeah.
Mansell coming over the hill, bottoming out, and creating tons of sparks flying everywhere.
Sparks off the back of his car. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, very cool. So, thanks, mom.
Yeah, tell Aunt Gail thank you, or nice job from me. I think that it's awesome. So
Thanks, man. Anything that we missed? I think we're good.
yeah, we covered this race pretty well. I thought it was a fun one, and ultimately, 5 really intense laps near the end, and that's kind of all you can hope for sometimes. But yeah, we're getting close to the summer break too. We got 2 weeks off now. We've got the Canadian Grand Prix coming up. We've got Austria in June as well, and then we get Silverstone in the beginning of July, and then it's a couple of weeks off there. So yeah, I can't believe we've gotten this far into this season already. We're like close on the halfway mark here.
Coming up on it, right? Because there's only, I say only, but there's 24 races,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of a large one, especially when you compare it to other series like IndyCar. IndyCar, I don't even think reaches 20. They got a short calendar.
Yeah. Well, and this F1 calendar has been growing for a few years now. 24 races, we got 3 races till the halfway mark. So if that, by my count, that means we are 3/8 of the way through the season. we got we got one more eighth to go until we're halfway. So coming up on it.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to reconvening with you next week, and I think I'll do our signature sign off of adios.
Adios.